So I just want to thank today's sponsor, Ritual. There's literally a million reasons why I love Rituals. For one, it doesn't matter what age you are, what gender you are, they have a vitamin for everybody. So I do have the Essentials for Women multivitamin 18 plus, but boy, girl, teenage, 50 plus, prenatal, postnatal, they do have a vitamin for you. Their vitamins contain 9 high quality nutrients, anywhere from D3 to omega-3 that can be really hard to get even on a healthy diet. I feel like there's so much information out there telling you what you need in your vitamins, and it can be really confusing to make the right choice for you. And I feel like Ritual really makes that choice very simple. I know for me this year, going into 2022, my focus is on making sure I know what I'm putting in my body, I can trust what I'm putting in my body, and there's proof to back up what I'm taking. And Ritual does all of that for you. All of Ritual's products are made traceable, so you know exactly what is in our vitamin that we're taking on a day-to-day basis. They actually invest in university-led clinical trials to quantify the impact of their products, and they take the time to get these certifications. They're just a company that's really taking the time to make sure us as their customers feel super comfortable taking a vitamin, and we fully understand what we're actually taking and putting in our body. So how it works, it's super easy. You only take 2 tablets a day. There are no fillers, additives, anything like that. Plus they add a mint tab in every single vitamin, so they actually taste good. They taste like mint. Adding a simple multivitamin to my daily routine can actually have a huge impact. If you are looking to start a healthy habit, try starting with a vitamin to introduce into your daily health routine. I'm truly obsessed with my Ritual vitamins. Like, I tell everybody about them. So if you guys want 10% off for your first 3 months, all you have to do is click the link in my description and use the code Alexis10, and they will get shipped right to your door. It's super easy. It is a subscription, but after the first 30 days, you have the freedom to cancel whenever you like or put your subscription on pause to your next order. So it's extremely flexible as well. Hello. Welcome to another video. If you are new here, hi, I'm Alexis. Make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. But I am so excited for this video. When I sat down to think about what videos I wanted to film in 2022, especially in January, when January is such a transitional month for a lot of people, I really want to sit down and give you tips from my perspective and my point of view on how to hone in on that energy and use it for your benefit. What more fitting way to start that video than to talk about the topic of how I completely changed my life. I feel like I've been through so many phases in my life. I've been through a lot in my life, and I feel like I can share my experience and help somebody that may be in that time of their life that really needs it, because I know when I was in that time of my life where I needed it, I could use someone to kind of shake me and give this advice to me. I literally changed my life in 2.5 years. So in 2019, I was broken, depressed, lost, confused, and really just about to give up on everything. I tried so hard since the day I graduated high school to get this life I've always dreamed of. I didn't understand that there was a missing piece in my life in order for me to get to the place I wanted to be. And I grew up in a community where that piece was normally given to you by your upbringing, and I didn't have that. So I didn't even realize that I was starting way back here when everybody else around me was starting light years ahead of me, and I was trying to compete with that, and I was getting frustrated with myself that I wasn't getting the same results. It was nearly impossible for me to get those same results because I just wasn't equipped to. I didn't understand that for so long. 2.5 years ago, I just moved out of my own apartment because I could no longer afford it. I moved back in with my mom and my sister, and I was sleeping on a mattress in the living room floor. I was broke. I was working a job I hated with a passion, and the only thing I had was just this hope that this can't be it. Even in my lowest of lows, I felt like I had this hope that I would hold on to that just kept saying to me, this can't be it, this can't be it. And if you've clicked on this video, you probably have a similar hope that is pulling you in the direction of change. And if you do, all I can say is hold on to that. Even through the darkest times in my life when I was experiencing something I wish I wasn't experiencing, I would look through that and see the hope and know that this pain or whatever I'm going through right now isn't going to last forever. Nothing lasts forever. No matter where you come from, how you grew up, your background, the knowledge you were given, and what your current circumstance or situation is today, you can change your life. And I am living proof. I'm living proof. I can definitely relate to a lot of people when I mean I really had to build myself from the ground up with zero help and figure life out. All I'm saying, if I can do it, you can do it too. So don't mind me if I look down. I wrote some notes because I want to be very clear on this video and I want it to make sense to you because there's so many steps that I took. So what I did is I sat down and I looked in my past and I really tried to figure out exactly what steps I took in the process I took to actually see change in my life. There's so many times I would write down something and it not come into fruition, and I had to really think about what was the difference between that time when nothing happened and I actually started to see change in my life. And I want to go over those steps with you guys and hopefully it helps. That goes into my first topic, which is realizing I had the option to change my life. And for me, what that means is there was definitely a point in my life where I started to believe in lies. And I would tell myself this story over and over again, especially when things would go wrong. The life I desire isn't meant for people like me. And I would continuously say this to myself subconsciously sometimes and not even be aware that this was my thought process. And it was so dangerous and is probably one of the things that held me back the longest. You can actually get comfortable in your way of living, even if it's dangerous, toxic, even if you know it's not good for you. Your body has now programmed itself to be able to survive in that type of environment. So if you try to rewire yourself and put yourself in a completely different environment, even if it's safer, your body will reject it. Your mind will reject it. Your nervous system will reject it. And it makes changing your life that much harder. I grew up in just chaos. It wasn't chaotic all the time. I did have a peaceful childhood at moments, but I did have to grow up fast. My mom was a single mom and she did the best that she could, but I did experience things I wish I hadn't, and I seen things I wish I hadn't. I've gone through things that have now affected me into my adult life, and I've had to figure out how to deal with that. For some reason, every time I would get close to taking action to change and things started getting good, I would sabotage myself to put myself back into the situation I was before. I blamed everybody why that would happen when the one person that was causing it to happen was me. Why am I continuously doing that to myself over and over and over again? Why am I sabotaging my opportunities? As I started my healing journey, it was easy to see that I was doing that to myself. But in the moment, what is really scary is I had no clue that I was doing that to myself. So if that is you, don't be hard on yourself. Break it down and find the root cause. And you have to start rebuilding yourself and letting yourself know that it is okay to move forward. There's survival techniques that I needed in my past. I no longer need those in my future. And what that meant for me was I had to start unlearning things that I learned growing up, and I had to start rebuilding new things that would benefit me in my future. For me, it was really, really hard because I didn't have any examples of what I wanted to be. What was close to me was heartache and struggle. So my subconscious mind truly believed that that's the way I needed to be in order to live. I had to realize that I can make different choices than the people around me. I can choose a different environment than the one I was brought up in. I can choose a different way of life than the examples brought up before me. And I really realized the power of choice. Everyone has a choice. I know that your starting point may be different than a lot of people. You may be starting way back here. Doesn't mean it's impossible to change your life. Don't allow yourself to keep using that as an excuse because you won't ever move. Look around you right now, and if you keep using that as an excuse of why you can't move forward because it's too hard, because you don't have this, you weren't born into this, trust me, these were excuses I used on myself all the time. Guess what? I never moved forward, and neither will you. Let that go and hone into your power of choice that you were given. I was so hard on myself because I kept telling myself like I was supposed to be somebody by now. I was supposed to be doing something by now. And I was so close to just giving up in that moment because I believed this lie of, you know what, it is what it is. Certain people are dealt a card of blessings and abundance, and they get born into a life where they're just given everything and they're just set up. And there's some people that just aren't, and that is our life, and there's no way to kind of cross between the two. And I almost let that take me out, but there was something in me that was just like, okay, Alexis, you have to give yourself one more chance. This time it has to be different. Obviously what you're doing in the past is not working. So let's try something different. Yes, I went through some bad things. Yes, I have trauma still from it, but I don't have to make it a part of my identity. It isn't who I am. It's what I went through. And I can choose to move forward without that baggage. That is my right and that is my choice. And no one can take that choice away from me. I knew I needed to start working on my mindset. I really need to start looking within to really break down and understand the choices I was making in my past that weren't working for me and why weren't they working for me, in order to realize what I needed to do and the choices I needed to make to move forward. No matter your starting point, there is a way out. The last point I want to make in this topic, and it's really, really important, and it's really hard to do. It's probably not something you can do overnight, and it's something you're gonna have to really process and sit on, but that is okay. This is one thing that I didn't do for such a long time. Even now, sometimes I struggle with this, but I always will remind myself that the past is not my present. I'm no longer in those situations anymore, and letting go of the identity that I wrapped around in my past and removing my past from who I am today. Living in your past in the present moment will affect you like you have no idea. I struggled with that so much, and I had to go through a healing process in order to understand how to let go, how to live without that identity tied to me, without my past creeping in and saying, you can't do this because every time you do, look what happens. And letting that negative self-doubt that came from my past, I had to learn how to let that go. One thing that helped me with that is just being present in the moment, being in reality. And when those thoughts would come up or creep up, or I'm realizing I'm reacting the same way I used to in my past to certain situations that happened, I'm doing it here in the present moment and it's just not necessary. I'm reacting the same way as I would if something insane was happening when something small happens now, and it's just not necessary. And I really had to unlearn those habits and that way of thinking and that way of reacting. And anytime that would happen to me, I would have to really sink in and just be present and ask myself questions like, are you okay? Are you safe? What is really happening in this moment? Does this situation warrant that same type of reaction? Was that reaction necessary? If not, why wasn't it not? How and why are you safe right now? What is really going on? And be realistic with myself and stop being so dramatic all the time. I was used to when something went wrong, everything went wrong, and it was big, it was dramatic, it was emotional, and it would take a lot out of me. I was reacting that same way as I would to small situations where that wasn't happening and it wasn't going to happen, but I would still react the same. What changed that for me is just truly being present, basing my thoughts in reality today, right now, what is actually happening instead of in the future or in the past. Once I realized that I actually had the choice and the option to change my life, I sat down and made a huge commitment with myself that I was going to change my life no matter what it took, no matter how hard I was going to have to work. I allowed myself to accept this journey for what it was going to be and move forward. I spent a lot of time with myself. I disassociated myself with everything I knew. Your process does not have to be that dramatic. That is just something I did because I needed it. I was the type of person where I would consume myself in other people's realities and other things just to distract myself from what I really needed to be doing. And I knew that was a bad personality trait of mine. So for me, I really disassociated myself with everything and anything really that just was not serving me or putting me in a position to get where I needed to go. And during that time, I had no car. I was working a 9-to-5, living paycheck to paycheck, and I was riding the bus. And I would take these long hour-and-a-half rides to and from work, and I had a lot of time to just think to myself. And I just really thought about why, when I tried to change in my past, nothing worked. I tried to break that down as much as I possibly can, and what was going on and things I was doing that weren't working for me. I could now approach this differently. I had to let go of the thought process that this is going to be easy and it needs to happen within a 6-month period or a year period. And one thing I used to do a lot was giving myself these crazy, insane timelines that I needed to change my entire life in 3 months or 6 months, and that just never happened. It just was so unrealistic because I was skipping over so many steps that were necessary for myself to change. I remember sitting on that bus ride and just realizing, like, whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to accept this journey as that, a journey, and however long it takes, it takes. I'm not putting a timeline on it at all. And it allowed me to truly focus on what I needed to be doing instead of worrying about something that was just unnecessary to worry about. Accept that this will take time. This is a process. This is a journey. All I needed for myself was trust, commitment, and the willingness to change. So I really started to work on that part of myself and reprogramming myself to be strong enough to take on the change that I was trying to take on. Sometimes I would need help, so I used every resource that I had. I couldn't afford a therapist at the time. I didn't even know how to go about finding a therapist at that moment of my life. I knew I needed help in some form, so I started reading books. I started listening to motivational speakers. I started listening to podcasts. Just anything I could get my hands on for free that could help me, I found it. I wasn't playing. I would just listen to it all day, trying to teach myself new habits and gain knowledge that I didn't learn maybe in my childhood, like new coping skills when things go wrong, how to be disciplined, how to talk to yourself nicely, how to gain confidence, how to heal, how to deal with past traumas and let go, how to forgive. I was trying to better myself in every single way, but not just surface level. I really went deep and tried to address the root issues of my problem, which if you look deep enough, you will find. And if you have access to the internet, you're already light years ahead of a lot of people in this world. The internet is a resource, and with that, you have so much power, so use it for your benefit. I was just constantly putting myself in positive situations, and this really helped me realize the things that I needed to unlearn and help me start putting in place new habits that actually will benefit me with where I'm trying to go. I had to accept that what I will be experiencing day in and day out for a long period of time was the process of change, and I had to get comfortable with that. I feel like we romanticize the goal and what that will feel like. We visualize what that will be like, and that's great. We should do those things. What we often don't romanticize is the process of getting there, and the process is where we'll be spending most of our time. And that was a big lesson for me that I learned and I had to accept. Think about where you're trying to go in the life that you're desiring. Great. It's probably beautiful. It's probably peaceful. It's probably everything you ever wanted. But then think about the process to get from where you are now to there. What is it going to take from you? Most of the time, it's things we don't want to do or we would already be there. And I had to sit with myself and think about each of my goals this way. And I asked myself, am I truly ready to accept this process? Am I truly ready to live this day in and day out? It's accepting the process for what it is, enjoying the process while you're in it, and understanding while you're doing this process every single day, you're going to get to your end goal. And that's the kind of the peace and the hope that carried me through. As I was doing something I didn't want to do, I would literally be saying in my mind over and over and over again, like, this is worth it. This is good for you. You love this. I actually started gaining natural motivation from talking to myself like that. But I truly had to accept that this was going to be hard. Am I ready to accept this? Okay, if I'm not, then I will wait. But you have to truly get ready to live in the process, not in the goal. Live in the process day to day to day. That is the make or break point. That's where change happens, is the process, not the goal. And if you're not ready for that, that's okay, be honest. But how do you get ready? How do you get ready for that? What shifts in your mindset do you need to make to get ready for that? What kind of peace do you need to create for your mind to relax your anxiety that will allow you to get ready for that or to start? That's where I believe the real change came from. Being comfortable with the process and accepting that there will be a process, accepting that I'm gonna do things on a day-to-day basis and I'm not gonna like it and it's not gonna be pretty. It's probably gonna get worse before it gets better, and eventually I will reach my end goal. And I had to accept that I was gonna live through that every single day for however long it took. The next thing I did was really try to understand what sacrifice meant. There is not an abundance of change without sacrifice, especially if you come from a starting point where there's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's gonna be a lot of things that you got to change about your life, things that you're going to have to do that you always avoided doing, and now's the time that you're going to have to actually start doing those things. For me, sacrifice was probably the easiest part. I was so exhausted and drained from the life I was living before already that I was actually willing to do anything in order to get the life that I want. And that meant sacrificing. For me, I was living paycheck to paycheck and I wasn't even making enough to even live on my own. Even though I was working a nice corporate job, it just wasn't enough to make ends meet the way that I needed for me to be able to move forward. I was actually searching for a second job at one point, only because at this point I knew I no longer wanted to work at a 9-to-5. I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to work for myself and I wanted more time. So in order for me to get more time, I had to give up more time. And I'm not saying everybody has to do this. More labor during this process can be harmful. And this is something that I needed to personally do because I needed more money to able to fund my side hustle in order to quit my 9 to 5, and that's why I did this. And it was just really getting down to doing what I had to do for a short period of time. So in the next couple months, I no longer have to do the thing that I dread the most, which was going to my 9 to 5. So at this point in my life, I really had to sit down and get clear on the steps I needed to take. And that meant sacrifice. I was gonna have to sacrifice either my time, the things I was doing, the people I was hanging around with. I was gonna have to make some huge changes. So at the end of 2018, I was actually introduced to self-publishing from my now boyfriend. And this is something that he was doing since he was 18 on the side to make extra income for himself. And I was always interested in it. I didn't know enough about it. He told me he made money from it. One day I was talking to him about how I wanted to change my life and I just can't work a 9 to 5 anymore. And he just gave me the idea like, hey, why don't you try the books? Was self-publishing at the time something I wanted to do forever? No, but it was a way out if I wanted to quit my 9 to 5 and work for myself. Was this my career choice and what I wanted to do in the moment? Absolutely not. This is something that you might not have to do, but this was my journey. I knew I was gonna have to fund it somehow. The money was gonna have to come from somewhere, and I had the understanding that in order to make money, I needed to spend money. There was one point where I was actually looking at getting a second job just to fund my side hustle. I was willing to give everything and anything because I knew this is the one thing that could possibly get me out. This is the one thing that could possibly kind of break that barrier I've never been able to break before. And I was willing to give it everything I got. I tried to learn and soak up all the knowledge I could from him and all the resources he gave me from online and watching videos and trying to learn how to do this business on my own. And then I wrote my very first book from start to finish on my own. And at first I didn't make any money from it. And I made my second book, I made my third book, and then I started seeing income come in. And I was like, oh, and these are books I just did with no money. I did it for free. I didn't pay anybody to do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually starting to see money come in. Like, what is this? And it took me 6 months to see the reward from what I was doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, he was not lying. Like, oh my gosh, I'm actually starting to make a little bit of money. It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. Like, it didn't replace my 9 to 5, but I started seeing money come in. I used that money to kind of reinvest it into the business so I didn't have to get a second job, but it was only enough for one book. So I finally paid somebody to do a full professional book for me. But I was able to do it on my own. It took a lot of learning. It took a lot of long nights. It took a lot of working all day and then coming home into working until 1 a.m. on my side hustle. If you knew me in that period of time, you probably didn't hear from me. If you were talking to me, I was probably working on my side hustle like I was obsessed. Someone said, I'm gonna give you a way out of your 9 to 5. I put everything into that for 6 months straight. Honestly, longer, probably 9 months. I put everything into this business. So really look at your life and look at where you're trying to go. What is it that you can dedicate the next 6 to 9 months? Hard, dedicated work, hard focus on this one thing that you could do that is going to propel you into the place you want to be in your future. What is that? What is that sacrifice that you need to make? What is that one thing that you need to be doing day in and day out for a short period of time to live happier for a long time? The life that I thought was destined for me because it's the way I grew up, to the life that I knew was there but wasn't my reality. I created that bridge and I walked over it finally. I got to the other side. And you can too. I think we have to realize there's certain things in your past that make you feel comfortable and you want to bring with you always, but they do not serve you in your future. That can be the one thing that's holding you back. So if you have relationships right now, friendships, family members that is toxic, negative, only holding you back, you may need to look at that and try to come to the conclusion if it's really for you. Understand the things that are for you are not for everybody around you. And if you are trying to bring that person, that thing, that environment with you, you will not receive it yourself because it's not meant for that. It's not meant for them or that. It's meant for you and just you alone. That was something that was holding me back for years. I tried to bring it all with me, girl. I tried to put it on my back and try to carry it over, and the bridge would break every single time. I couldn't get it. I couldn't even get to the other side because it was so much and it wasn't meant to go with me. So I had to do a lot of letting go. And if those things are meant for you in the future when you are stronger, then they'll come back. I promise you they will come back into your life. If not, then it wasn't meant to be, and that's just something that you may need to accept. When I made these decisions to do this, I'm telling you, things just started coming to me in abundance. In a way I've never seen before. It was kind of like the universe and God was saying, finally, I can give you what I've been meaning to give you for a while now. And I was like, girl, you could have done that a long time ago. And it was just such a pivotal moment. I still remember those 9 months. Like I could just see myself just wanting for change. I actually videotaped me leaving my 9 to 5 and that whole experience on my channel. They're very old videos, so Don't mind the way that they're edited and filmed. I don't know what I was doing, girl, but they're on my channel if you're interested in watching them. At that period of time when I finally got to where I wanted to be and I quit my 9 to 5, and you can just see over the time how my life is elevated to today. Another thing I had to do was set boundaries, not only with myself, but with other people. Unfortunately, sometimes we have people in our life that feed off your energy, especially if you're a person that's ambitious, going after things for yourself, you're going after what you want, you're being your true authentic self. Some people latch onto that because they don't have their own identity. They wish they could have the strength to do what you're actually doing at this time. And because they don't, they either can get really negative with you, very attached to you, and they will try to keep you locked where you are so they feel better about themselves. So it's really, really important to set boundaries of what your hard no's are, the things you will and will not do, the work environment you will and will not work in, the people you will and will not be around, the relationships you will and will not be in, the things you will and will not put up with. And you need to have your like no's that no matter what, nothing can break those no's, like no matter what. And you need to have an understanding of what a healthy relationships look like, what a healthy work environment looks like, what a healthy friendships look like. So you also want to write down things you want and you will do. And doing just that will save you so much heartache and time during this process of you changing your life, because anything that is not for you, you will already know. You won't have to be like, should I be around that? Ooh, this is kind of triggering. I think it's triggering. Should I do this? Ooh, I think that's a red flag. You will know with certainty what is for you and what is not. During this process, it's really, really crucial to be mindful of the company that you keep. You want to be around people that inspire you, that push you to go forward, people that you can be vulnerable with, share what you're going through, sharing your process, and that actually care about it. And if you don't have that, it's okay. You just keep it to yourself and keep moving, because you know what you're doing and you don't need anybody else outside of you validating what you're doing. It's gonna look like a mess. Your life is gonna look crazy. People are gonna question what you're doing. They're gonna be like, why are you doing all this? It's not that necessary. They're gonna try to talk you out of it, which I find is very weird. People will really try to do that. They'll be like, that is insane what you're trying to do. Do you know that, right? Like 1 in a million people could do that. You know, that's really hard. Like, why are you doing all this? Just stop, because they want to keep you where they are. And you just got to realize that. And if you have that kind of stuff around you, maybe it's time to let go. And that was the true moment where the change in my life actually begun. And I could start to slowly, very slowly see the change have an effect on my life. And it slowly started to excite me. So I just kept going and going and going. Okay, so now that I've started to shift my mindset, I'm starting to unlearn things and relearn new habits that are beneficial towards me. I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to change no matter how hard it was going to get. I made the sacrifices that I needed to make, and I started working really, really hard. The next thing I really started doing in my journey was trying to be as resourceful as possible. It's the one skill my mom taught me, and I'm so thankful for, because now growing up into the world, I realize how little of people are actually resourceful people that try to find a solution no matter what. Like for me, there is no such thing as no. Like there's always a way. The way my brain is literally programmed, thanks to my mother, that there's always a way. It's the one thing I'm truly, honestly grateful for through this process that I naturally have. If you don't have the natural ability to be a resourceful person, that is fine. But you can definitely learn how to do that. Honestly, being resourceful is a shift in mindset. And all it is not allowing yourself to give up so easily. Trying to find a solution. Maybe that solution is a different approach. Maybe that solution is something you never thought about before. I stopped allowing the excuses. I don't have enough money to do that. I don't have enough time to do that. I'm not smart enough to do this. There's no way I could possibly get that done in this amount of time. And I always would just push myself, okay, this probably won't work, but what will? And I would ask myself all the time, what can I do right now? How can I help myself move forward? What resources are available to me? Because there's always something, even if I have $0 in my bank account, there is always something that I can do. There's a solution that I can find. Sometimes that meant I had to get really creative with the options that I had. And that's fine. As long as what you're trying to get done gets done, reprogram your mind and start telling yourself there's always a way, there's always a solution, and start truly believing that. And become that person that always finds the way or finds the solution. I would just try to soak up as much knowledge as I possibly could from anywhere. I would try to get around people that were at the place where I wanted to be. If I couldn't be in the same room with them, I was listening to those type of people, what they had to say, what they were doing. Start working on that muscle. Start working on building that tool of being resourceful and finding a way and finding a solution, because you're going to need it when things get hard. And that's one thing that I can say that saved my life so much, is really honing in on being a resourceful person. Even when I was able to quit my 9 to 5, I was finally working for myself. I was making more money than I ever have before. I knew that there was still something missing and still something that I needed to work on. I could just start to feel like my past traumas creeping up and starting to take over my mental health, my health. It really started to be loud. And I think it's because everything in my physical life was going as planned for once in my life, once in my whole life. So I knew it was time to finally say, you know what, it's time to take a few steps back and we need to get help. And it probably was one of the best decisions I've ever done in my life. Therapy has just changed so much for me, in the sense of I could actually enjoy life. I actually feel peace, not always living in fight or flight all the time. I've learned things about myself, of why I may have done things in my past that have held me back, and understanding myself in a way that I would have never been able to without someone pointing it out to me. It took me so long to get a therapist, but I knew it was what my body was screaming at me to finally just sit down and figure it out and get it done and do. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm not saying this step is necessary for everyone, but if you have things that are holding you back that you need to deal with, it can be a good idea to speak to someone that's not a friend, that's not a family member, that can give you an outside perspective of what could really be going on with you. It can be a pivotal moment of change for you that can really set you on a course to change your life, because you finally understand who you are and why you do the things you do, and why that's caused certain outcomes in your life. You can finally get an understanding. Therapy honestly changed my life. It just added to all the work I did previously. It is truly allowing me to become the person I need to be in order to live the life that I'm trying to live. Now, what I want to leave you guys with is how you can take steps over the course of the next few months that will leave you in a better position by this time next year. If you think about it, by this time next year, you could be living a completely different life than you are living today. And it all boils down to making the choice to do that and creating action steps to follow behind. One of the first things that I did, and what you can do, I wrote a very, very detailed list about my life and the direction I wanted it to go in. Who do I want to be, and what do I want my life to look like in the next 2 years? Write down, what are you doing? What do your finances look like? Where do you live? How do you truly feel from the inside and out? What do you look like? What things do you have? Very clear on the life that you're trying to obtain. What does that look like? Where are you going to be in the next 3 years? Or where do you want to be in the next 3 years? The next thing under them, you want to write the action steps that it'll take to get there. What does the process look like? And be very honest, be very real, even if it's hard and things that you don't want to be doing, write it down. Once I wrote down the action steps, I honestly tried to process each one. I really tried to process each one. Am I okay with taking these action steps day in and day out, 100% of my time, for however long it takes? Am I ready to actually commit to this action step? Because like I said before, that is where you're going to be living for the next 9 months. The goal is at the very end. You're not going to see that for a while. Are you prepared to sacrifice a little now and live a little bit of a harder life now to get where you want to go? You have to be accepting of that process, to be able to talk to yourself in a positive manner, to be disciplined, and to keep going no matter what. And sometimes it takes really looking within to get where you want to go in life, and go for it. No matter what anybody's saying, go for it. I love you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it spread some light. I hope it gave you new awareness going into your 2022. It's making you think thoughts you've never thought before. I hope you gained knowledge, and it can actually help you receive real tangible change into your life, instead of always posting that goal on your wall and never getting to it. Like, I hope this helps you actually be able to reach that level of change that you're looking for. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.